Here, this is Kaya of 3 is what I'm calling, because this is a deck that I'm going to be playing in best of 3 standard ladder. So standard ladder just reset, and it's time for me to hyper focus on a new deck for the season. Last month was Dimir Toxic. This month I'm going with Orzhov, not quite Reanimator, more like a Planeswalker Control style of build. So we'll go through this real quick and you'll see what I'm talking about. So we start in the 1-drops with 3 copies of Cut Down. And then in the 2-drops, we are running 3 copies of Fateful Absence and 2 copies of Sheldred Edict. So you notice that the removal package is pretty unfocused. And the reason why is because I want to have decent game against everything without having to hyper-focus on a single type of permanent to get rid of. So we got 3 copies of Cut Down to take care of like those pesky 1 and 2 drops. Then we have 3 Fateful Absence. Yes, it does give its controller a clue token, but it allows me to pinpoint destroy either a creature or a planeswalker for only 2 mana. So that's going in. Alternatively, if you do not have the rare cards to craft Fateful Absence, you can run Ossification in this card's stead. Only problem with that is that it is sorcery speed and not instant. So I personally prefer Fateful Absence because it's instant speed, and they don't get their card back when they destroy Ossification. So that's why we're going with Fateful Absence. Aside from that, we have 2 copies of Sheldred's Edict, and this is in here because sometimes you need to be able to make your opponent sacrifice cards to get around pesky ward costs. So this card right here will either make them sacrifice a non-token creature, a token creature, or a planeswalker. And since this kind of fits the same bill as Fateful Absence, it gets a 2-of include. Now, you may notice that this deck does not run Go for the Throat. That reason being is because we're running Fateful Absence instead. I personally prefer it, so we're going to go with that one, because it can hit literally anything. Moving on into our more proactive area, we have 4 copies of Wedding Announcement. Now, this card pulls double duty as either a way to get creatures onto the board and supply you with blockers, and also provides a little bit of card draw if you happen to be ahead on board. So like whenever you attack with at least 2 creatures, this card's going to draw you a card instead of creating a token creature at the end of turn. And then of course on the backside it gives all your creatures +1/+1 once it flips. So Wedding Announcement gets a 4-of in here. Liliana of the Veil, we're running a 3-of Liliana because sometimes you need to be able to make your opponent discard cards and also make your opponent sacrifice creatures, because sometimes pointed removal is not as good as sacrifice removal. So we're running 3 copies of Liliana. Then we have 2 copies of the Celestis because honestly, this card in here along with Liliana is going to help us with our Reanimator strategy, meaning that these are going to allow us to discard our high-cost planeswalkers like the Eternal Wanderer and Kaya for profit. And we'll get to that in a moment. So, Celestis gets a 2-of include for ramp and the ability to discard cards. Then we have 3 copies of the Wandering Emperor. If you've been playing Standard in the last year and a half, you know what this card does. It's very, very good. It's solid removal and also allows us to go on to the aggressive with the 2/2 Vigilance Samurai tokens. So, that gets a 3-of include. Board wipes, we have 2 copies of Sunfall, and we also have 2 copies of Farewell, and 2 copies of the Eternal Wanderer. So that's 6 total board wipes. Let's hope it's enough. So Sunfall exiles all creatures, and then you incubate X, where X is the number of creatures exiled this way. Pretty solid. Farewell, honestly, I tend to run Farewell not as a board wipe for creatures. Typically, it's a board wipe for toys, ditching your opponent's graveyards, getting rid of all their artifacts, all their enchantments. If your opponent is playing a toy-heavy strategy, you can't do better than Farewell. Really, really solid. So this gets a 2-of include. See here. And then the Wandering Emperor, of course, she does a board wipe built in on her character. It is the -4, so you can use the -4 immediately when you play this card. It says, for each player, choose a creature that player controls. Each player sacrifices all creatures they control not chosen this way. So like you could have like, say like your samurai token, or like a token created by Kaya or anything like that, and that's the token that you choose. And then you choose like your opponent's like worst card, and you just obliterate the rest. It's really, really solid. Plus her static effect of no more than one creature can attack the Eternal Wanderer each combat. I mean, that pairs so well with the -4 that it might as well be a board wipe on its own. So there's that. And then we move into the Invasion of Tolvada. This is the card that kind of makes this deck into like a quasi-reanimator deck. This is the only card that gets stuff back from the graveyard other than Takenuma. So let's read through this real quick. So for 3 colorless, a white and a black, you get a Siege with 5 counters on it. And it says, when Invasion of Tolvada enters the battlefield, return target non-battle permanent card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Now, read that carefully. It says non-battle permanent card. What's a permanent card in this deck? Well, you have the Celestis, you have Liliana, you have Wedding Announcement, you have the Wandering Emperor, you have the Eternal Wanderer, Vraska, you have Kaya, or any of your lands that just happen to be in the graveyard at the time. Any non-battle permanent, this card gets back for you. Now, ideally, we want to be bringing back Kaya from our graveyard with it, or maybe the Wandering Emperor with this. But you can go a little bit lower and bring back Liliana, or the Wedding Announcement, or a Destroyed Celestis. Your options are wide open with the Invasion of Tolvada. And on the backside, it gets even better. So if you defeat this battle, you get an enchantment that says, creature tokens you control get +1/+0 and lifelink. Guess what? Every creature in this deck is a generated token. So, Wandering Emperor, now you're making 3/2 Vigilance lifelink creatures. With the Eternal Wanderer, you're making 3/2 double strike lifelink creatures. Kaya's tokens get a +1 power boost and lifelink on top of it as well. It's like all of the creatures that you're generating, the Wedding Announcement creatures, all the creatures you're generating through just token generation. Again, there are no actual creatures in this deck. Just get boosted by the Broken Sky. It's pretty solid. Now the second line in this deck says, at the beginning of your end step, create a 1/1 white and black spirit creature token with flying. That's pretty solid. At the end of every turn, or at the beginning of every end step, you're making a 2/1 flying lifelinking spirit. That on its own can be backbreaking. The fact that you're creating inevitability with the Broken Sky. Pretty solid. So, moving on. We already talked about Farewell. We talked about the Eternal Wanderer. The Eternal Wanderer actually does have another ability. It is her +1 ability. It says, exile up to 1 target artifact or creature. Return that card to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of the next player's end step. So if your opponent has like a pesky blocker or something, you can actually blink that out of the way so you can swing through with your tokens. Or you could exile target artifact or creature. Well, honestly, on our side, it's not that beneficial. The only target we have is the Celestis, because you're not going to target your own tokens with this, because your tokens go bye-bye. They won't come back from a blink effect. But the 0, where it's make a 2/2, and the -4, where it's basically a board wipe, that's pretty much why the Wandering Emperor is in here. Next up, we have Vraska, Betrayal Sting, for 4, a black and a black, or pay 2 life because of the Phyrexian mana cost there. You have a 6 loyalty, Vraska, and her abilities are 0, you draw a card, lose a life, and proliferate. So proliferate means you are adding a token to everything that likes tokens. That means an additional token to like any battles you're defending, additional counters to all of your planeswalkers. You can speed up Wedding Announcement by a turn if you need to. It's like these all very valuable things. If your opponent has poison counters, add an additional poison counter to your opponent. Proliferate is very, very strong. Personally, one of my favorite mechanics. I love Proliferate. Next, we have a -2 ability, which is target creature becomes a treasure artifact with tap. Sacrifice this artifact, add 1 mana of any color, and loses all other card types and abilities. So whatever like your biggest, most problematic creature is that you want to put in my way, I can just make it go away with her -2. Pretty good. And the -9, of course, is her ultimate ability, which is if target player has fewer than 9 poison counters, they get a number of poison counters equal to the difference. So basically what that reads is set your opponent's poison counters to 9 so that you can then proliferate and end the game. Okay, next up we have 2 copies of Breach the Multiverse. Again, if you've been playing in the last few months, you have probably seen Breach the Multiverse either cast against you or maybe like played in like a show match or something like that. But we'll read it here. It's 5 colorless and 2 black. It's a sorcery, and it says each player mills 10 cards. For each player, choose a creature or planeswalker card in that player's graveyard. Put those cards onto the battlefield under your control. Then, each creature you control becomes a Phyrexian in addition to its other types. So, that means in a 1v1 match, you're going to cast this, and you're going to take the best thing out of your opponent's graveyard, be it a creature or a planeswalker, and then we're going to be taking the best thing out of our graveyard, which is always going to be a planeswalker, because we're only running planeswalkers in this deck. So, if you can see the like that little synergy here, let's take a look at it. So, early game, we see Liliana. Liliana makes both players discard a card with their +1. Oh no, I discarded Kaya. Or say the Celestis. Celestis, day turns to night or night turns to day. We get to use the ability to draw a card and discard a card. So we'll draw a card and we'll discard Kaya or the Eternal Wanderer or Vraska. And then on the very next turn, we'll cast something like Invasion of Tolvada and get that planeswalker out of our graveyard that we just pitched for profit using Liliana or the Celestis. And then boom, you have a turn 5 Eternal Wanderer or a turn 5 Kaya Intangible Slayer. Or honestly, if we're rocking the Celestis early game, that could be as early as turn 4. Not too shabby. So that's kind of like the little combo that we have going on with this deck. It's not necessarily a combo that the deck is trying to pull off, but it is there if the stars align. So next up, we have Kaya, the Intangible Slayer. For 3 colorless, 2 white, and 2 black, you have a 6 loyalty planeswalker with hexproof. That alone is pretty solid. But let's look at her abilities. +2, each opponent loses 3 life and you gain 3 life. You just do that over and over until your opponent's dead. Easy. Or pay 0, draw 2 cards, then each opponent may scry 1. I'll read that again. Draw 2 cards, then each opponent may scry 1. I think we're getting the better end of the deal there. And her -3 is probably one of her most fun abilities, and it is exile target creature or enchantment. If it wasn't an aura, create a token that's a copy of it, except it's a 1/1 white spirit creature with flying in addition to its other types. So, for example, let's say your opponent just dropped a Sheldred. Okay, well that's cool. Well, on my turn, I'll do -3. I will exile your Sheldred. I will get that Sheldred onto my side of the board as a token creature, but oh, what's this? The comes into play effect triggers, making you have to sacrifice another permanent. Oh no. That must feel really bad. Feels really good for me though. So, that is like pretty much the bulk of the deck. It is basically you try to control the board as much as possible while dropping beefy ass planeswalkers to end the game with their tokens. The mana base is pretty simple, pretty straightforward. It's we're running 2 copies of Igancho, 4 plains, 4 swamps, 2 copies of Takenuma, 4 copies of Caves of Quelos, 4 Shattered Sanctum, 4 Rafine's Tower, and 2 copies of the Mirex. So the Mirex is in here very obviously against opposing control decks. Because like Mirex, when the board is controlled and everyone is too afraid to cast spells, the Mirrex shines, because at the end of turn, every turn, just pump out a might token and just overwhelm your opponent, because they're not going to want to waste their precious spells from hand getting rid of your mites every turn. I mean, they may be forced to, but they're not going to like it. So, sideboard, let's look here. We have 1 copy of Cut Down to shore up the 3 that we have main board. Then we have 3 copies of Duress. We have an additional Fateful Absence, and 2 go for the Throat, just in case we need additional targeted removal. Then we have 3 copies of Knockout Blow. This is specifically here for Red Deck wins. As Red Deck wins, while it does not belong in best of 3, sometimes it still makes its way there. So we're running 3 copies of Knockout Blow. Then we're running 3 copies of Graveyard Trespasser to mess with any kind of opposing graveyard strategies. And we are running 2 copies of Hostile Negotiations for the control matchup. And the reason this is here is because it works really well at fooling your opponent. Because here, let's read this card real quick, because not a lot of people know what this card does. So for 3 and a black, instant speed. Remember that, instant speed. Exile the top 3 cards of your library in a face-down pile. Then exile the top 3 cards of your library in another face-down pile. So you got 2 piles, 3 cards each. Look at the cards in each pile. Then turn a pile of your choice face up. An opponent chooses one of those piles. Put that pile into your hand and the other into your graveyard. You lose 3 life. So what this does is it takes 6 cards off the top of your library. You divide them up into 2 piles of 3, and then you choose whichever one you think your opponent is going to not want you to have. So let's say, for example, you have the Invasion of Tolvada and like a couple other cards in one pile, and then you have like Kaya and like the Wandering Emperor and like maybe like Breach or Removal in the other pile. You're going to show the pile that has all the meat in it, in hopes that they're going to make you want to throw that away, and you get the Invasion of Tolvada to your hand. So, since the card Hostile Negotiations puts the other pile into your graveyard, you can then use Invasion of Tolvada to reanimate anything they threw in the graveyard for you. It's such a win-win, it's not even funny. It is just pure, unadulterated card advantage. So, I'm putting 2 copies of those in the sideboard. The only reason they're not in the main board is because aggro is so prevalent right now. It is really, really hard to justify a card that pops you in the face for 3 in the main board. So these come in versus the control matchups. So that is it. That's the deck that we're going to be playing tonight. I call it Kaya of 3. And let's go ahead and hop in and play some games and see how we do. Okay, so we see an Iganjo, a Swamp, and a Takenuma. And that gives us the Wandering Emperor, Sunfall, we have Liliana, and Breach the Multiverse. Honestly, it's just a pile of removal, so we're gonna keep it. So let's have ourselves a good time. Let's start with a Swamp. Hit him with the club. Okay, so we're playing against some kind of blue-white control list over here. So let's go ahead and play another Swamp and make them think that we are running mono black. Okay, so they dropped a tapped land, so we're going to take advantage of the situation. We're going to play Iganjo, and we're going to play the Celestis. We're doing that then and there, because it kind of gets around counter spells. Okay, so we have a Jace. That's totally fine. We do need to get rid of that as quickly as we can. Okay, so we have a Shattered Sanctum. We'll go and play that. Let's see here. Let's go ahead. And ooh, do we wait for it or do we do it now? I think we do it now before they have a chance to counterspell whatever I might be playing. Karn Living Legacy, you say? Okay, that's interesting. Creates tap Power Stone tokens. Very interesting. Okay. All right. Sweet. That's exactly what we needed. Okay. So let's go ahead and do -1 to make another token. And then we are going to... yeah, we're going to play Takenuma, unfortunately, but it's the only land we have. And then we're going to go ahead and Fateful Absence Mr. Jace right there. And after that, I think we're going to say go. Yeah, we'll attack for 0. There you go. And end the turn. Okay, they gain a life with the tapped land coming in. Okay, they're going to create a tapped Power Stone token. And Loran of the Third Path comes in. How interesting. Let's see. Let's go ahead and tap for any color. We'll add a blue just to scare him. Okay. All right, we will take our turn. And we're going to start... Okay, that non-artifact spell, and that's a clue. So neither of those are ways for them to counterspell my Liliana. So we're just go -2, sacrifice a creature, and then we'll go +1 onto this one right here, and they will all attack right there. Okay, sacrifice that to draw a card. Alright, the card goes down to 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We still need 2 more mana to cast our breaches. That's okay, though. Aw, not Sunfall. That's mean. I'm just going to make another tapped Power Stone token. Alright, let's go ahead and play the Wedding Announcement. And then we'll go -1. And then we'll go +1. And we'll discard Breach the Multiverse. Okay, drops the land. Okay, he transforms his guy. I get a token. Pay any amount of mana, look at that many cards on the top of your library. Then put one of those cards into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in random order. Okay, so he did get a card. I'm imagining he probably got a land off the top because he only paid 1 mana. Okay, he went and got Ossification. How interesting. Alright. I'll block. No big deal. He plays the Restoration of Iganjo. How interesting. This is an awkward deck. Alright. Let's just get rid of that right now. Bye-bye. Let's see here. Submit 0 for that. And then we will +1. Each player discards a card. Okay. Sacrifice that to draw a card. I'm going to discard Sunfall because I kind of want to play Breach at some point. Okay, yes, precisely. Okay, there's a Cityscape Leveler in there. So now we know what he's going for. What we're going to end up doing is bringing in the Graveyard Hate for game 2. Okay, let's see here. Okay, that's going to basically just kill my guy next turn. So what we're going to do is we're going to just exile that right now. We'll cast Wedding Announcement. Alright, we got 2 boys. Okay. Yeah, I kind of figured. No blocks. Ooh, that's rough. That's really rough. So we're at 5 mana with 2 7-cost cards in our hand. We're going to go to the next game before they understand what we're doing here. Okay, so now that we're here, what we're going to do is we're going to drop all 3 copies of Cut Down, bring in a Fateful Absence, and we're also going to bring in... Do we bring in the Justice? I don't know. Let's see here. I'd say... I say we bring in the Trespassers, kind of just to mess with them. We'll bring the Lilianas down to a single. And the Wanderer down to a 2. Let's see. And then we have 2 copies of Hostile Negotiation. That's probably going to do well against this person. So what we'll do is we'll drop Wedding Announcement down by 1. Let's see here. Actually, bring the Wedding Announcement back. Give me 2 negotiations. Do we have any space for Duress? That's a good question. I tell you what, let's start with this and see how far it goes. If we happen to win this one, then we may make further changes. All right, I will play first. Okay, so we have 3 lands. That's a slow land, so that'll be coming down turn 3. So we have Invasion of Tolvada, Wedding Announcement, Wandering Emperor, Sunfall. All right, let's keep it. See what we can do with it. All right, plays a Tranquil Cove. I'll play a second swamp. Okay. Ooh, okay, so we have Rafine's Tower and Shattered Sanctum. I think we're going to play Shattered Sanctum just so we can get the Wedding Announcement out right now. The Rafine's Tower may need to just be a tapped land next turn, though. Alright, he plays a Restoration of the Gonjo. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, we're going to just play this turn. And we will attack for 1. Getting another token. Right, discards a land. Good choice. Gets that land in. Is technically ramp. Static Net, huh? Okay, Static Net for the Power Stone token. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and play a Seed of Gonjo. And we will play... We'll play another Wedding Announcement. We'll attack with 1 creature, so we get more creatures. Okay. Let's see here. I would like to see if Sunfall will resolve. It does. How do you like that? Sure. You have yourself a Wanderer. Ooh, I wonder if he sees that Rafine's tower there and thinks that I'm going to like be like countering spells or something. All right. Very interesting. Okay. A farewell right about now would be really good. Yeah, no blocks. That works too. All right, let's go ahead and Fateful. That right there. And then, let's see here. What's in your graveyard? Just the Karn, huh? All right. He's out of there. Draw a card for our troubles. Very nice. And little tokens of 5/5 now. He's down to 3 cards and I have 5 cards. So this is a little bit of a switcheroo from last game. I would very much like to see a farewell come up next turn, though. Alright. We have another. Aw, it was a farewell next turn. Aw, that sucks. That sucks really hard. That's fine. Alright, let's go here. We'll hit a plains, and let's see here. What's in the graveyard here? We have, it's all answers. So let's see here. Let's go ahead and hit next. Hit attack phase, targeting that. See what you do. Okay. Alright, block and kill that. What's in your graveyard? Just a couple planeswalkers, huh? Let's see here. In that case, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So I don't have quite enough, but we need more creatures on the board, so we're going to go ahead and play Graveyard Trespasser. Now, let's get rid of Karn. That seems to be an enabler for you. Alright. Send Sparta's headquarters down the way. I imagine he's hoping to try and get that that 8/8 on board, which he has enough mana to do. Okay, he casts Sunfall. You know, also that works for me. Okay, cool. Let's see here. What's in my yard? Still nothing, unfortunately. Let's go ahead. Let's see. Gosh. I really want to hit that hostile negotiation. But I just don't have enough mana. Just gonna start pumping out 2/2s. Alright. Alright, cool. So let's go ahead and play the land. And we just gotta pass this turn. There's really nothing we can do right now. So no attacks, end turn. Alright, get another guy. Let's see what he does. Play mills 3 cards. Yep. Alright, he wants to play the Mightstone and Weakstone. So he's gonna kill one of my creatures with it? No, he's gonna draw cards with it. He's trying to get to like whatever his combo is. I'm honestly expecting to see a Portal to Phyrexia come down. Okay, he casts the Leveler. Resolve all. Okay. I say pass. Alright, I'm gonna say hostile negotiations on your turn. Alright, cool. It resolves. Let's say we are going to show them this in hopes that they make us throw it away. Perfect. All right. All right, cool. My turn. We'll play Caves. Play Invasion of Tolvada. I'm going to get Kaya back. -3. Exile that. And I'll get my own copy. Next. I'll attack there. And we'll play a Celestis as well. Sure. I'm honestly surprised to not see any, what is it? Any, counterspells out of them. Like, they have not played a single counterspell. Yeah, that's fine. Right, that goes bye-bye. Plays Urza. Does he have enough to do it? He does. Impressive. Alright, what you gonna do? He's gonna exile both my guys. Alright, let's go and make them sacrifice the Planeswalker. And then we will Kaya. -3. Exile that. I'll get my own copy. I'm going to use that to destroy that. That's fine. You can draw a card. Your creature's still going bye-bye. And that's it. End the turn. This guy's a very interesting deck. I like it. Oh, okay. You want to blow up my mana? I mean, that's cool. Plays another Mightstone and Weakstone. Okay, so let's start with draw 2 cards. You can scry 1. Ah, perfect. Okay, let's go ahead and cast Breach. Let's see here. You're going to give me... You're going to give me your Cityscape Leveler. And from my graveyard, we're going to get a Liliana. Go and sacrifice. And we say end turn. All right, and they say no more, no thank you, sir. All right, so next game. So Duress is probably going to be useful. I see they're not running any counter spells, or at least they didn't draw any counter spells. So let's see here. What do we want to move around? I mean, the Sunfalls are still useful because they are still using creatures to win the game. Farewell is incredibly useful because of all the toys and shit that they're running. Is Duress really useful versus all the other things that we have against them right now? Yeah, I think... Also, I think that we just have like a really good game plan against them right now, so we're not going to change anything. Alright. Best of luck, Tanalicious. Okay, that's a pretty awful hand, so let's go mulligan that. Alright, that's a little bit better. Keep 6, send 1 farewell back, done. Alright, land, Rafine's Tower. Plays another Spar's Headquarters. I will follow up with another Rafine's Tower. I used to wonder if I should just be running a couple pairs of negate in the graveyard. Or in the sideboard, I mean. Alright. Thanks for ditching lands for me. Appreciate that. Alright, let's go ahead and play a Graveyard Trespasser. Submit 0. Alright, he's going to ossify. Ward, discard a card. Works for me. I like seeing them discard cards. He's going to do the +1. Alright, let's go ahead and play a Swamp. And since they're tapped out... Well, actually, no. We're just going to fucking punch it in the face right now. There you go. Not the Gonjo. Anything but the Gonjo. Alright, let's go and play the Shattered. So we're up to 5 mana now. So we can, at the end of their turn, drop a Wandering Emperor. And then on my next turn, follow up with a Farewell. Depending on what they play this turn. Might even play like the other Wanderer. Depending on what they do. Discard a card, probably a land. Yeah, get that land into play. Resolve. Resolve. They gain a life. Very nice. Okay, they play a Jace, the Perfected Mind. Ooh, full cost this time. How you like that? And they're down to a single untapped mana, so they're not likely going to be able to deal with what I have. Pass. Alright, my turn. Play the Wandering Emperor. Make a token. My turn. +1 said token. Play Caves of Koilos. Next, attack. And it is dead. And also... You know what? I'm curious. We're going to play it and see if we get to keep both. We do. How do you like that? Alright. I like where this is going. Let's see what kind of board wipe they throw at me, though. So far, I have not really seen anything in the way of, like, just direct Planeswalker removal, though, so... Let's see what kind of stuff they have for me. And from the looks of it, I believe they're just playing blue-white. I've not seen a single green card come out of them at all. I think it's just your basic blue-white control. Blue-white with no counterspells. That's the weirdest shit. I've not seen a single counterspell come out this entire game. Okay, it's like we have a Roper. He might have come to the realization that he's not going to come out on top here. Alright, timeout used again. He might have just left the game, actually. Which I would not be too surprised by. This does unfortunately happen once your opponent realizes they're on the back foot. But if you were decent, you would just concede the game instead of wasting my time like this. Okay, alright, my turn. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and do Exile. That, so I can just come in and beat your ass for a whole bunch right now. Alright, he's out of there. Let's go ahead and give +1/+1 counter to that. All right. And we hit the attack button. All right. Cast Invasion of Tolvada. Yep. That's pretty much it. I kind of expected. Oh wow, you get 4 pips for a win in gold. How you like that? That's pretty nice. Hey, how you doing? It's the next day, and I'm going over my footage for this video, and this I believe this is like one of my first times doing like a best of 3 deck showcase, and I'm thinking we're probably going to like be keeping it to just a single game of gameplay on this video, because the video is already 45 minutes long. It's like across the intro, the deck tech, and like that first game that we played. Yeah. It's a long video, so I think we're going to wrap it there. If you want to see more of the games that we played during this recording session, there is a live stream VOD up on the channel, so you can go and check that out if you want to, and see what other kind of games we got up to last night. So, as far as like post game wrap, it is a fun deck. It is a deck that needs a little bit further iteration, but I'm not giving up on it just yet. Most important takeaway I can say is that it's just a solidly fun control deck. The only thing that I really think the deck is like really lacking is like a solid like draw X kind of spell, but I don't know. I think so. I think we might be able to get away with not having to go the route of adding Phyrexian Arena. So I would like to avoid that if possible. Like there are other draw options. So that's it as it is. If you have any feedback from me, how you would like me to better approach best of 3 content, because we're only getting one game in on this video anyways, feel free to drop a comment down below. Subscribe to the channel if you like what you saw, and do the YouTube thing. So that's it. Until next time, take care of yourself.